Hello everyone and welcome to another New World video. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, but we're going to be diving into the PTR Season of the Guardian patch notes. There's a lot to unpack. There's going to be a lot to discuss in this video. So if you guys can, just get yourself a drink, get yourself a coffee, and we're going to work our way through this. And I'm going to give you guys my thoughts along the way. So let's go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to scroll down a little bit because this is about like, hey, this is only going to be in English and here's some details about the PTR. If you guys want to go read that for yourself, feel free. Like, I'll make sure I include the link in the description of this video so you can go check it out for yourself. But I think what I want to start with is what is the focus test for this PTR? And that's the Winter Forge Rune, or the Winter Rune Forge, if my dyslexia didn't always inhibit me sometimes. And that's going to be that raid. Season 5 artifacts, which we talked about here in the last video. Really freaking cool. Main story quest updates. This is going in into the Shattered Mountain. Then controller support, which I cannot wait to go hands-on with and give you guys my thoughts. And then update and refresh the controller guides. And then there's a couple of other surprises that I've got planned for you guys that I'm excited about. They upgraded the combat and animation systems, weapon balance updates, mounts, and Outpost Rush, which is contentious, and I think the feedback needs to be they need to open up mounts to the base game, and I think that is the right call. Now, will there be frustration from people who are like, I just bought the expansion for the mounts? Like, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's mad, but I think it doesn't mean that the wolf mounts or all the other mounts need to be there. Just a mount needs to be added into the base game. Season 5 reward tracks and cooking trade skill changes. Now, they made the announcement, so let's dive into the PTR patch notes here. The jump of the PTR on February 23rd for a chance to play Outpost Rush with members of the New World Development Community teams as a kind of an event highlight and heads up. Now, new seasonal trial, the Winter Rune Forge, up to 10 max level players in a bone-chilling gauntlet of increasing difficult enemies. The seasonal trial requires teamwork to overcome room puzzles, slay the icy construct, and fail the ancient ice guardian for unique rewards. For the new artifacts, 8 brand new artifacts have been added to help refine your playstyle, each featuring its own questline for upgrading it. 3 new weapons: be nimble and take advantage of the battle with Sin, spin to win and with Tempest Fury, or be toxic and poison heavy attacks with Venom. So we talked about this in the last video, but as a highlight, Sin is the hatchet. Corruption debuffs last 25% longer, and that actually works across both weapons in your arsenal. Venom spear targeted tip. This is going to have that poison for dealing 20% weapon damage for 5 seconds with heavy attacks. And then Tempest Fury, it's the great axe momentum. Successfully gain 3% movement speed for 3 seconds. Works on both weapons and stacks up to 10 times. Now, 5 new major armor pieces to reduce max cooldowns and hit harder with Nature's Wrath, Ironheart, Gilly's Gravity Gauntlets, and the Creed Boots to defy death, and the new Phoenix Amulet, which I think the Phoenix Amulet is by far one of the most intriguing artifacts that I am very much looking forward to farming. All right, Nature's Wrath is the medium chestware. Nature's Blessing is empowers expire 200% faster but deal 20% more damage. Talked about this last time, is more burst damage. That sounds like if you're needing more burst damage, awesome. It does sound like you are overall having a damage loss, but if my math isn't working on that one, just let me know. Gilly's Gravity Gauntlets is a heavy glove. Charge whenever to take advantage or takes damage. Gain a charge that increases the damage of your next attack by 3%. Honestly, that sounds really cool, especially if you're a tank or somebody who gets hit a lot, which most likely should be the tank, unless you're crazy and you're like a mage and I like getting hit in the face for this damage boost. Love to hear your thoughts there. Anyway, Ironheart, Gravity Legwear, steady foundation when not in heavy loadouts, gain 20% more max health. Creed Boots, the light footwear, ambush, deal 15% more damage and 25% critical chance as long as you haven't hit the target within 20 seconds. And then finally, the Phoenix Amulet. Phoenix Revival, when you receive lethal damage, avoid death and become invulnerable for 1 second. 180 second cooldown. I think that's really, really powerful stuff, especially like as a healer. Like, imagine being that, so that way you can, oh no, and then you get yourself back up and keep the party alive, right? Like, the value, I think, speaks for itself. All right, they talked about this. We covered this as the reaction, the upgrade combat animation systems. They have overhauled it. They can actually debug this now with breakpoints, and as a developer, their breakpoints are game changing. You can see exactly everything that's happening and going on, and thus you can find where things are going wrong. That's great. Now, I think that's essentially a good summary of that. I'm not going to read that verbatim. The Outpost Rush Cavalry is now adding in the mounts for the 20v20 game mode. So this is pay to win. Let's not lie. Like, you pay to have access to the mount. The mounts are paywalled. I think they need to fix that. Outside of that complaint, I think this makes sense, especially for that mode. Mounts are a really great feature, and so put that feedback in when you go play the PTR. If you're on the Discord, just continue that feedback. I think that's going to be important. For the main story questline revisions, this now completes the main storyline quest, and the fully updated is now end-to-end. Based off player feedback, improvements have been made across the board for the story campaign, including the new player starting area, the experience fresh narratives, etc., etc. I think a lot of this, especially as we get into the native controller support as well, a lot of these updates are perhaps one of the big reasons why you're not seeing a lot of content that is being added to the game, because these are just foundational, major overhaul to the systems. This overall, from just the life of the game as people step into it this year and next year and the next year, they get to benefit from all of that. And then ideally after this, as we look forward to whatever they got for May, we can see bigger improvements in the long run. Native controller support is coming to New World. Choose from preset controller layouts to enhance your New World experience as part of optimizing the game for controller play. We've introduced the following new features and settings with additional functionality, such as rebinding, and that will be coming soon. So you got aim assist, so assist with aiming ranged attacks. This is available only on a controller and exclusively against AI enemies. Target friction reduces the reticle speed when hovering over a valid target, available only on controller. So this is going to help with aiming on controller regardless. This is that kind of magnetism aspect, so that whenever you're coming across the target, it moves a little bit slower before you go to your next target. I think that's going to be really nice. At least that's something that I could not emulate in my controller setups. Enemy target lock enables you to lock the camera onto any AI enemy, supported by both controller and by mouse and keyboard. And you can see the different buttons. This will mean, and for maybe if you guys want, because the Steam controller support setup might still work. I know that I got a notification that Steam controller, like the game has controller support, so I think a file got pushed in, but one of the two, we'll see. Enemy target lock enables you to lock your camera on any enemy. I think that's great, and I just read that, so we read it twice. Yay! Yay for us. Free form movement allows running in all directions, including towards the camera. This is awesome. I love this. This is how I play, how I prefer, but it's optional, so you can turn this on and off. Holding block or deactivating or activating the target lock will revert to the normal strafe navigation, defaulted to on only when using the controller as the input device. The use camera direction for melee attacks, when off, allows melee attacks and blocking in the direction of your input and character facing instead of camera facing. Defaults to off only while using the mouse and keyboard input devices. Improved accessibility. New radial wheel for quick access to commonly used functions like emotes, commands, and camping. New shift mode modifiers for quick access to all combat abilities. Improved user experience when navigating with the UI and the controller. General fixes over across the world. Adjusted the location of the lore note on the study of flora and fungi to prevent it from being inside another object. They fixed an issue impacting gatherable chests on the Unbound Island, and they fixed an issue where players could spawn under the map during the Corrupted and a Leviathan raid. For their quests, the faction missions with kill objectives on the Purdue farms and point of interest for Monarch's Bluffs now have reduced requirements. They fixed an issue in faction missions that focused in on the Meadow Lake fishery. They eliminated factions across the relentless shore and erroneously targeting incorrect enemies. They fixed an issue preventing the Admiral Black Powder's Flail quest from being completely as Wally Widenskin's now spawns. Man, I apologize, guys. Oh my gosh, that was rough. They appreciated they removed the level 45 epic women and armor quest due to being outdated content. They corrected and skinning skill requirements of the quest A Beautiful Stench. They fixed an issue that prevented players from acquiring the quest Music to the Ears from Aetherwind, and they updated the statue location of the quest Art is Suffering in Eden's Grove, updated the Ice Troll's name in objectives to Snork Ice Fist. For AI updates, they fixed an issue that caused certain summoned enemies to Tor to Riven to unexpectedly retreat during combat. They removed the mist spell attack from Swamp Dryad Shamans to improve visibility for players. They fixed an issue that prevented corrupted acolytes from executing their energy ball drink attack. I don't know why I saw drink. Man, my brain flipped out on me. Fixed an issue where certain enemy types were not adjusting the angle of their attacks while on stairs or sloped ground. They fixed an issue causing the thundering of Ebonscale tigers to unintentionally drop named items. They fixed an issue caused cursed woodcutters to not display active damage overtime effects on them. They fixed an issue where skeletons would sometimes appear as orbs in the Tome of the Old Warrior. They fixed an issue where the skeletons would sometimes rapidly turn while patrolling. Scorpions and Iridanius have both been leveled up to 65, and Scorpius, not Scorpions, High Priest Osculera can now be found in the Blood Senial Seal in Mirkgard. Expeditions, Guardian and Genesis, they fixed an issue where Blighted Gateskeeper burrow attack failed to hit the player. The Dynasty Shipyard, they fixed an issue where the Dynasty Empress Dragon Dive only affected the player on their backside. The Depths, they fixed an issue with the Ancient Artifact nameplate would persist on screen for an extended period of time. For the Tempest Heart, they fixed an issue where certain abilities were not applying Taunt or Nishan during the encounter. They fixed an issue where Living Corruption were spawning on higher levels than intended and within the base version of the encounter. And they fixed an issue where the Corruption core was not dealing the intended amount of damage to players. For the Glacial Tarn, they fixed an issue where spell names would appear incorrectly in Glacial Tarn. They fixed an issue where Sir's loss in power buff would be dispelled by weapons perks, and they fixed a bug where rare occasions Sir Loth would fall off the arena platform, forcing players to reset the fight. For Global Mutators, they introduced a 0.25% or second delay between the inflamed AoE filling up and the damage going off to improve reaction times. They fixed an issue, rectified the issue preventing certain bosses from scaling their difficulty correctly, impacting bosses like Isabella, Dynasty Shipyard and Tempest Heart versions, Chardius, and Anpu. For Outpost Rush, they're implementing the following changes to address ongoing feedback regarding OPR gate strength, while being mindful of PvE players who prefer focusing in on building up forged structures. We will continue to monitor this feedback on this topic for further changes as necessary. So they added a 50% weakness to siege damage for fort gate doors, allowing siege weaponry, powder kegs, etc. to deal bonus damage to these structures. They reduced the strike/absorption of fort gate doors from 10% strike, 20% slash to 0% for both, ensuring that strike and slash damage types are not reduced when attacking gates. We aim for melee to have a bit of an advantage on the gates, as thrust element damage is more prevalent in ranged weapons than melee. They increased the build and repair time for fort gate doors by 25%, and for the tier 2 gate and the 50% for the tier 3 gate, reducing the strength of each repair tick. All right, let's get into combat changes. Equipment load changes. Medium equip load is now the baseline with damage, crowd control durations, outgoing healing, and block stability values adjusted to 0 across the board. They talked about this on their balance of power. The heavy equip load has a 20% decrease to incoming crowd control status effect durations and a 15% block stability trade-off of minus 15% damage and 30% outgoing healing. Also has increased threat generation from taunting gems and perks to the account for the decrease in damage output. Light, oh, that's actually good, because that is like with the taunt, like it's, you know, it's a part of your damage, and thus I'm glad they're offsetting that with the heavy equip load, being that if you're most likely in heavy, you're most likely trying to be the tank in this case. Light equip load has 15% damage and 30% outgoing healing trade-offs with a minus 15% block stability and 10% incoming crowd control status effect durations. They fixed an issue where players could erroneously appear to target their dueling opponent with healing abilities. They fixed an issue where the reticle coloring would incorrectly show a valid target over a friendly, neutral, non-PvP player. They fixed an issue causing in-combat indicators to be inaccurate at times. They fixed the flamethrower pillars of fire and javelin's shooter stance abilities from not being terminated when menu screens blocking the ability inputs are open simultaneously. They updated the Bile Bomb Heart Rune to include outgoing healing reduction equal to half the incoming healing. They also updated the tooltips for Perforate, Arcane Vortex, Raging Torrent, and Whirlwind to provide details about their approximate cancel windows, given they are multiple hit abilities. The status effects that have scale stat modifiers over time now behave correctly when the potency of the status effect is changed while it is active, and players now have a limited rotation while dodging forwards and backwards. Then for the perks, they fixed an issue where the accelerated traps perk did not apply the bleed if only the first trap upgrade was unlocked. They fixed an issue where several haste status effects were not properly extended by the Owl Cry perk and the Wing Shoes artifact. They fixed issues where the bleed and the bleeding sweep perk could not be extended past the base duration. They fixed issues where the accelerate perk on rune glass gems was not properly increased damage while abilities were still on cooldown. They fixed an issue where keenly jagged bleed could stack up to 3x if applied in different sources, and they fixed an issue where the reticle perk and Jasper rune glass gem was not stacking. Fixed an issue where the enfeebling Maelstrom perk would not always trigger if the target was further distance or the specific angle around the player, and the number of equipped perks stack for shields are now will be displayed with numerous inventory screens, and that sounds cool. And then they changed the text to on Refreshing Toast to reflect that it works on all consumables. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, I really do hope that you hit that like button and be sure to comment below. That support really does make these videos fun to make, and I also look forward to hearing your thoughts on all of these notes. But let's get back into it. For artifacts, they increased the total number of active artifact quests a player can have simultaneously in progressing from 5 to 10. They adjusted logic to enable the Wind Chill ability to function alongside the Blood Drinker's Ghoul's Harmony artifact perk. Woo! They fixed an issue where the persistent blunderbuss was causing, or the pestilence blunderbuss is causing interface with lifestaff functionality when used simultaneously, and they fixed an issue of the status effect caused by pestilence blighted enhancement perk would not be reduced by invigorated. For attributes, they fixed an issue where the 350 strength attribute bonus was not applying to ranged ability damage. All right, let's get into the weapons. Blunderbuss, baby. They fixed an issue where the blunderbuss grenade detonated at the precise moment it hit a wall. The split grenades would spawn behind the wall. Okay, man, that's a good fix. They fixed an issue where claw shot root effect could be reduced to a low value hit that it would break the ability's functionality. They adjusted claw shot's root effect duration to prevent modifications by duration modifiers, further avoiding potential issues with the ability. And they reduced claw shot's base duration from 1 second to 0.07 seconds to compensate for the reduced flexibility in fixing the above issue. The claw shot ability player homing now works against the War Blossoms in the Eternus encounter. For the bow, they fixed an issue where the bow heavy attacks were sometimes being treated as light attacks. For the fire staff, they fixed an issue where the trial by fire ability could affect targets through gates and structures. They ensured mana regen does not occur while flamethrower is active, and they made visual adjustments to several fire staff abilities for better combat clarity and optimization. For the flail, which I love, I really enjoy this weapon, modified the radius of the area of effect from the Better Together ultimate ability. It will now vary based on the player's equip load, with light load offering a 5 meter radius, medium a 4 meter radius, and heavy a 3 meter radius. Fixed an issue where the Door of Night shield wasn't functioning with the Kite Shield portion of the Ironclad Super Arcane Smite upgrade. For the Great Axe, they adjusted base Whirlwind to be able to do 4 spins without stopping by default, and to only in the upgrade require hits for the additional 5th, 6th, and 7th spins. I like that change. I like that change because that actually I've gotten caught by like, oh, I missed, and then all right. But in this case, at least you get the 4 spins no matter what. All right, Hatchet, increased damage from 140% to 150% for the infected throw ability. The increased debuff duration extension from 20 to 25% and damage per debuff from 3 to 4% for the persistent hindrance ultimate ability. They increased the range damage at 20 meters from 20% to 25% for the hurling force passive ability, and they fixed an issue where the berserk ability was triggered and additional stun reactions after cleansing the stun with the Bersenting Purge. For the Ice Gauntlet, they increased the damage of the final 2 meters from 20% increase to 25% increase for the Wind Chill ability. The Wind Chill ability, it will now play impact sounds upon hitting environmental surfaces. Cool. They fixed damage of Spike Trail from 56% to 61% for the Ice Spikes ability. They increased the slow effect duration from 2 seconds to 4 seconds for the Frozen Touch passive ability. Sheathing an Ice Gauntlet while an active Ice Pylon will now continue to provide functionality to destroy the Ice Pylon by continuously holding down the associated ability key. Fascinating. I'm going to have to play around with that, see how it feels. The Ice Pylon ability will now play a sound effect when the ability is deactivated. Life Staff updated targeted healing option descriptions to enhance clarity. They updated the target self UI prompt when targeting healing abilities now shows when the player is not in a party or a raid group. They fixed an issue where the glowing focus passive ability was not the extended duration of Fortify from the Protector's Touch passive ability. What's going to be interesting is how is this healing and the targeting going to play out on the controller. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to going hands-on tomorrow about. For the musket, they fixed an issue where the power shot and power to burn ability cooldowns would reset when traveling through certain structures, and they added contextual information for the scent of blood traps, upgraded to inform a 1-second cooldown ability activator. For the rapier, they fixed an issue where the swiftness passes cooldown was no longer in the duration between flurry blows, preventing the ability from applying a status effect stack for each blow. For the Void Gauntlet, increased the base damage of the weapon by 5.25%. Due to this baseline damage increase, the damage output for Oblivion and Scream abilities has been lowered to keep their power roughly consistent with current performance. These two abilities are performing well due to their utility, so we are holding off on buffing their damage for now, but we'll continue to monitor. For the Warhammer, they increased the stagger reduction animation during the staggering itself by 5 frames for the Path of Destiny's Systematic Waves upgrade. They increased the haste duration from 3 seconds to 4 seconds to clear out the swing away upgrade, and they adjusted the Guardian's sprint passive to work while traversing, e.g. walking, running, and sprinting, and they updated the text for the Aftershock Ultimate to better describe its functionality. All right, let's jump into mount notes. They had a small grace period when leaving roads to prevent the loss of non-road speed boosts when stepping off only for a moment. They fixed an issue where mounts would spawn on top of the player while canceling a summon at the end of the timer. The mount attachment faction flags now feature unique description text. The mount attachment flags are now correctly named in the transmog menu. The UI now displays purchase bundle when viewing tooltips of store purchasable mounts in the mount section screen. The UI now displays a purchase expansion message when the player attempts to mount up without the already having purchased the expansion. They upped the level requirement next for mount slots to certain consistency with player slots, and they fixed an issue where weapons coating consumables appeared to end prematurely when changing mount attachments while riding. They fixed an issue causing other player mounts to sometimes not animate correctly, and they fixed issues that cause combat status and mount summoning eligibility to occasionally mismatch. Crafting and higher tier mount food now yields a higher currency reward, and they fixed an issue causing mount achievements to immediately appear inside the fading and the mount. Improve the positions and the size of all the shield type mounts attachments for round, tower, and kite. Killing small prey with the mount now progresses the quest objectives and rewards XP. Nice. The mount quick slot description icon will now properly indicate the acquisition source, And they fixed an issue causing players to become dismounted while attempting to apply a skin to the mount attachments. They fixed an issue causing players to be unable to jump while mounted if their character stamina was depleted. All right, economy, progression, and gear. The food and recipe simplification. They removed split attribute foods. I know some people might not be happy about that. Upon login, any split attribute food in your inventory will be converted to a single attribute food of the same tier. For example, if you had a tier 4 Dex Con food before the patch, you'll have a tier 4 Dex food after the patch. Same logic has been applied to cooking recipes. They distilled gathering and crafting foods to a single tier, tier 5, and other tiers in your inventory will be replaced and shifted up to tier 5. For example, if you have a tier 3 mining food before the patch, you will now have a tier 5 mining food after the patch. So make a lot of tier 3s, guys, if that's affordable. They removed the active trade post listing for at the time of the patch. Updated items will be sent back to the owner for them to manage as they wish. If you had a tier 4 strength con food on the trade post, the listing was active. When the patch goes live, the listing will be canceled and you will receive your tier 2 star strength food in return. For recipe adjustments, after simplifying the recipes, new homes were found for some ingredients that no longer had a use. Saffron was added to the clam chowder. Squid ink was added to the calamari and tomato stew. Venison tenderloin is now the main ingredient in the grilled tenderloin and veggies. Juicy ham hock was added to the biscuits and gravy. Coconut was replaced with seasoning blend for the banana parfait, and wheat has been added to the meat pie for this case. All right, most recipes have been changed to provide 3 meals instead of 1, and they have also had their ingredient amounts increased to account for additional meals and bonus craft chance considerations. This will help generate more XP from the craft, and chefs will benefit from the first craft bonus while leveling as well. The increased output of the bonus meal change when crafting a high level. Loot drop adjustments. Location of food recipe drops has been changed. Drop rates have also been adjusted by players at many of these recipes in the past. So the rate for small loot containers has been reduced from 5 to 2%. The rates for large loot containers has been reduced from 20% to 5%. So sounds like that's a pretty big cut. Experience adjustments. XP boost events for cooking have been increased 5 to 20% depending on their value. Smaller values got a 20% bump, larger ones a 15% bump. This was done to counteract the loss of the first time craft bonus that many crafts have used during the reduction times. Maybe if you're interested in crafting, go do that. Sounds like they're doing the first time, you get a whole new first time bonus, but I'll let you guys make the decision there. For potency adjustments, adjust the potency of tier 5 foods to better balance all options and progression. These changes aim to address the decreasing value of legendary fish since Brimstone Sands update. Below is an example of Dex tier 5 foods that they're changing. So current values, tier 5 Dex food, 40 Dex, and then, I'm trying to read this. 40 Dex, duration 40 minutes, requires cooking, requires that. Brimstone Dex food, 40 Dex. Looks like then we have the tier 5 Rote Dex food, 48 Dex. So some of these have different values, all tier 5s. Interesting. Season 5 values. Reorder to highlight attended progression. Okay, I see what they did here. Tier 5, you get the 40 Dex, then you go to the Dex food banana pudding, 44 Dex, and then finally the fried etc. 48 Dex. Okay, so they were, in these cases, they've reordered those in that way. All right, trade skill level requirements. Adjusted the required cooking level for many recipes as my voice cracks. Tier 1 base. Tier 2 cooking level 1. Tier 3 level 50. Tier 4 level 100. And Tier 5 level 150. Crafting and gathering foods. Tier 5 cooking level 125. Attribute foods. Tier 2, 3, 4, and 5 going up from 15, 50, and 100. And then Tier 5, the higher ones, 150, 205, and then finally for the legendary fish, 250. Required level to consume adjustment. Adjusted the levels required to consume foods due to the change in numbers of recipes. Everything has had a requirement reduction, so anything consumable before will now still be consumable after these changes. Tier 5 attribute food is the exception, but there are multiple changes for this tier, and the details are below. Tier 5 gathering and crafting food was level 60, is now level 15. Tier 2 attribute food, no change. Tier 3 attribute food was level 20, is now 15. Tier 4 attribute food was level 40, is now 35. Tier 5 attribute food was 60, is now 65 due to the potency adjustments. And then you can see here for Brimstone and for Rise of the Angry Earth, 65 is now for Rise of the Angry Earth, and Brimstone has been lowered to 45. So we got an increase, a decrease, and then the actually, sorry, I misread. The Rise of the Angry Earth is now 61. That is the change overall there. Ingredient description updates. I think that might be confusing. We'll have to wait and see. Ingredient description has been updated. Crafting, other changes. They removed legacy gypsum casts from the gypsum kiln. Casts that players have already crafted should remain in their inventory and can still be open. Fixed an issue where the achievement crafting name Flail achievement was not progressing. Fixed an issue causing the mithril jewelry to show options in the crafting menu for invalid components. They fixed an issue causing Savage and Divide and Glacial Tarn replica hatchets to not give the appropriate crafting XP. And they fixed an issue where the Azoth currency icon would appear blurred in crafting recipes. For gathering, the Musk Sheet Honor and Memories and Sap and Gather Rush and Old Windsward Sack are now available. Shorten the description for performance buff, Never Stop Learning. The effect has not changed. For refining, move charcoal to the smelting inventory category from woodsworking. For progression, they removed the stand as long as you like and the last stand outpost from the achievements list since the last stand outpost is no longer available. They moved gypsum from the rewards inventory category to the resources inventory category. They moved timeless shards from the rewards inventory category to the resources. I like both those changes. Increased player wallet coin cap from 500,000 to 1 million. Who wants to be a millionaire? Who doesn't? Artifacts now have a pity mechanic, which will guarantee a drop after a set number of kills. This is to help those of us who are unlucky. Fixed an issue causing pristine gleamite to disclose where it would be removed at the end of winter. Convenience for this event. And now the item will now have a proper attention, and the attribute will no longer indicate that it'll leave your inventory. All right, PvP reward track. Rank requirements for most tiers have changed. Recruit is now 0 to 9. Steel is now 10 through 19. Bronze begins at 20. Silver begins at 50. Gold begins at 100. Platinum at 150. And Star Metal remains at rank 200. Each tier rewards have a new minimum gear score for the equipment, starting at 650 for Recruit. Adventurers without Rise of the Angry Earth expansion will still only get a maximum of 625. Frequency and orders of appearance of the rewards has been updated. Potion packs have been replaced by recruitment packs between 0 and 19. Consumables and PvP craft mods can now be purchased directly from the reward track. Artifact appearance frequency has been increased. Coin faction token dark matter reward quantities have been slightly decreased, but frequencies have been increased. Players will see a set overall. Craft mod types have been reduced to the optimized section. Gypsum orb mount attachment frequency has been reduced. Additional rewards have been added, so faction dies, exclusive decor, rune glass crafting materials, news level 65 tier 5 name weapons, and the new predator trinkets are now available at the star matter tier. The Azoth salt cost, the most rewards have been adjusted to better represent the value of the item. They fixed an issue that caused it has been nice devastating smell achievement to duplicate. For gear and items, they fixed an issue causing the syndicate hatches to use the incorrect appearances. Although correctly themed, they were utilizing the wrong tier appearances. This reorganizes the appearance and will change the existing hatchet to use the correct appearances. Added a seal of extractors to the faction shops, allowing adventurers to remove custom attribute seals from their faction armor and revert this attribute back to Constitution. They fixed apparels for faction flails. Players will now correctly unlock faction flail skins when purchasing flails from the faction vendor. They fixed a crafting recipe for Elysian Wilds housing and the item Dragontail Thunga, which was incorrectly a duplicate of the giant corpus lily. They removed the ability to trade tier 1 weapons and armor. They fixed the issue with the description of the cloth gloves. They fixed an issue with the mithril flails, had a focus attribute bonus instead of dexterity. They fixed an issue with the impacting durability of the mithril longsword, the rapier, warhammer, great axe, and greatsword to better match the other mithril weapons at the 3000 durability. They fixed an issue where Magnus tier items in the Significant faction were unintentionally named Occultist instead of Magus. They fixed an issue causing trade skill armor pieces to sometimes drop as bind as pickup. They fixed issues where the immutable resolve, Persila Shield, Sodium of Magnus, the Door of Night, and did not correctly attribute this perk. They previously had the Round Shield Aggression perk and will now correctly have the Kite Shield Refreshing perk. They fixed an issue where certain kite shields were functioning as round shields. They updated the wording of the weapon coding to affect better accuracy and clarity. They fixed issues with the die channel not to function in the Ironwood Ronel shield skin. They fixed an issue with the Harbinger heavy chestwear cape. This was not displaying on male characters. They fixed an issue where the visual effects appeared distorted in the Pirate Great Axe skin, and they removed unsustainable item appearances from the transmog UI. Blown Glass Warhammer, Glass Orichalcum, and the Void Gauntlet, and the Glass Orichalcum Blunderbuss. For the loot changes, the Chain of Zane and the Hoop of the Cursed Sun will no longer drop in Mutated Lazarus runs. They fixed an issue where Weaver's Fen side quest rewards are now appropriate gear score levels, and the reward display the correct rarity in the quest previews. They rebalanced the pre-expansion materia cost to help leveling players gear themselves. I think that's on that one. Heart runes were previously crafted with pre-expansion materia, are now crafted with dense materia. They fixed an issue that causing higher level corrupted portal events, most notably in Shatter Mountain, to reward the incorrect rewards when completed. Slightly increased the chance to get a craft mod from the small chest. Wooden coins now have been the potential to drop higher level players in supply caches to prevent issues where they would sometimes reward nothing. Winged leather shoes and quick draw glove artifacts where the season 4 season pass now drop from Helatheus, and anyway, they drop. Fixed an issue where sometimes quest reward equipment cases would sometimes reward nothing, most notable the armor. We're almost done. Ooh, okay, yeah, 2 last sections, guys. We did it. Seasons, they fixed an issue. The season trophies from previous seasons cannot be placed in the same house as a new seasonal trophy. Fixed issues where schematics of previous furniture crates weren't properly granting their associated recipes. They updated the Season 3 leaderboard reward skins for Savage Divide clear time, and the score will now have the correct titles. They fixed the gather tier 5 resource node. Season pass activity not progressing when you gathered Morsite or Moradrite in Elysian Wilds. And then finally, for the UI access, they added a warning message when attempting to start a musical performance while standing in water. They fixed an issue that prevented emotes from working in the first use immediately after purchase, and the unclaimed territories should no longer flash their overlay when zoning in on the map. Hoo boy, we did it! We did it! Oh my gosh, we did it. That was a big, long set of notes. I think there's some really good things in here. It's going to be some interesting things to go hands-on with. Clearly, you know what's going to be coming for me content-wise, so I hope you guys look forward to that. If you are new around here and you have yet to hit that subscribe button, that would really be awesome, pushing us ever closer to that 20,000 subscribers. And yeah, that's what you can kind of expect. I am toying around with a couple of ideas. Obviously, I said Lord of the Rings, but I'm very, very curious to see if you guys want me to move some of my other MMO-focused coverage to this channel specifically. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. But outside of that, guys, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.